Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever Millionaire Maker edition of the Opening Tee podcast. Thank you for joining me here today. I am your host for this podcast, part of the Osmo Golf podcast series. This is the Opening Tee podcast, and what I do here is I pretty much mirror the First Cut content. Of course, I do a little different things in each, in case you like to consume both. But I try to cover a lot of the same stuff just in case, somebody doesn't like one form or the other. But certainly you can find useful information in each of them that I won't have in the other. So let's move on here to the Players' Championships this week, as we are still about a month away from the Masters. But that doesn't matter because we have the Millionaire Maker this week. Really excited about that. This is one of my favorite tournaments in the past. It has been one of my best tournaments. So, of course, I am welcomed the site of the Millionaire Maker. Of course, past results are not always indicative of future performance, but certainly it has been something to be said. So, thank you to SuperDraft, who will be the sponsor of the show once again. They're going to be with us through all through the month of March. In SuperDraft, we just had an Osmo Plus member win the long drive last week for a cool $2K. Pretty good stuff there. I think you might have even had another top lineup in there as well. They provide such a unique format. So what there is the future of daily fantasy sports is here, where they have no lineup restrictions. They have their unique format called Multiplier, where every player in the field is assigned a specific multiplier. And let me tell you, you definitely do not need to get the winner, unless, of course, it's Ty Hatton this week, who was a 1.3x multiplier. So that means in the ranges of the multiplier run from 1 to 1.75. They have contests in PGA, NFL during the season, NBA right now, MLB coming up really shortly, and so much more. So go on over to SuperDraft to check them out in your app store or superdraft.io on your computer. Definitely check them out. The contest will be getting bigger, running up until the Masters. So if this is your first time joining the Opening Tee podcast, what I do first is I go into the foursome of facts from last week, where I give you just 4 facts from around the world of golf that I think you ought to know. Then I go into my high and low. I give you a couple of the not your average missed cut sweat segment. Some great ones, of course, last week. Then we go into a stat review from the Arnold Palmer, or the week before. This week it'll be the Arnold Palmer. Then, of course, I preview the upcoming week. We're going to Tpc Sawgrass. Then I give you some stats for the week. And now that we actually have the salaries already posted, I'm recording this on Sunday night at around 8 o'clock. They came out yesterday. I'm actually going to, instead of giving you my top salary prices, I'm actually going to just run down the top salaries with you. And maybe 2 or 3 of my top jumped off the page at me. I couldn't believe they were this cheap price type of endeavor. So let's go ahead and move on to my foursome of facts for the week. We're going to start out in Qatar. I believe it's Qatar. Jorge Campillo wins again in a playoff. It just seems like there's a playoff on the European Tour almost every single week or every other week. He beat out David Drysdale. It's so funny, though, about Jorge. His caddy just quit 1 or 2 weeks ago. He wasn't making enough money for him, so he just quit. And sure enough, that's sometimes what happens in the professional game of golf. You just quit on your guy at the wrong time. So that's a great one. Ty Hatton, the second one, he scores a huge win for for the Euro Tour and the English players contingent who have been searching for a win for so long. Tommy Fleetwood is still in that ball camp, searching for a PGA Tour win. And now I sound like Paul Azinger here, as Paul Azinger last week on the telecast when he was talking about Fleetwood said that everybody wants that win over here. The European Tour wins don't matter as much. This is his words, not mine. And so Ty Hatton breaking down that barrier this week with a huge win at the Arnold Palmer. He'll be on the tour for the next 3 years now. So if you like Ty Hatton, that's good news for you. If you're not a fan of Ty Hatton's antics on the golf course, that maybe is not a great sign for you. Next one. Sungjae Im makes it 2 years in a row where the Honda winner was in the top 6 at Bay Hill. Just an interesting kind of theme here. So Keith Mitchell did it the year before. Speaking of Keith Mitchell, he had a top 5 actually here as well. And that's going to lead me into my fourth point, and I was a week late and $1 short on Keith Mitchell and Alexander Berger. Keith Mitchell had the top 5 here at the Arnold Palmer. He was in my core last week, not so much this week. And Alexander Bajork, if you're following my European Tour articles, was both Ben Raza and I said that we would be on him. And, of course, he missed the cut. He was able to bounce back with a nice sixth-place finish there. So would have been a really nice top 10 payout and, of course, a good DraftKings play as well. So hate to see that as we move on from the foursome of facts straight into our high and low for the week. And there wasn't really much high. Sung Kang was pretty good. Matt Wallace made the cut, was okay. But Molinari, just before the tournament even started, the first thing I saw when I woke up on Thursday morning was a withdrawal, and I knew that my week was over as I tried to chase nostalgia, and as I warned every single person in my Winning Element article, that's exactly what I was doing, and I wasn't really condoning him as a big play, but wanted to make sure that everybody knew I was playing him at a relatively high clip, just in case he ended up winning again, and people were like, oh, hey, why didn't you put him that you were playing him? So I did, and that's what the result was. You can imagine how the rest of the week went. All right, let's go into the your average, not your average, cut sweat segment. And this week it's great because the 8th and 9th hole and the 17th and 18th hole are so tough on both sides of this course. And, of course, there's the 2T cut sweat each week. So Lahiri, we'll start off with Anirban Lahiri. He had to play the last 3 holes at 2 over or better and played them at 3 over, so not that bad there. Brendan Steele and Kevin Struman both needed par on 18 and both hit it in the water en route to a bogey. Now the worst one of the year. Poor Matt Every. So Matt Every leading after round 1, he shot 7 under. He needed a bogey or better on 18 after playing the previous 17 holes at 9 over. Was still inside the cut line by 1. So he needed bogey or better. And he made double on 18 to miss the cut, shooting 11 over 83. Ouch. I don't know if I'm going to be able to top that one. We'll go relatively quick. Matthew Neesmith needed 40 or better on the front side and shot 41. Justin Rose. Now we'll transition into the putters. And Justin Rose, man, he better get rid of this putter. He lost 6 strokes in 2 days, helping him miss the cut by 3. He shot 6 over, so even if he matches the field, he gets even. Finau lost 5 strokes putting and missed by 2. Russell Knox lost 3.6 strokes putting, missed by 2. Steele lost 3.4 strokes putting, missed by 1. Stenson missed by 2 and lost 3-point-something strokes. Corey Connors, no surprise, he lost 2.6 putting and missed by 1. But let me tell you, if Corey Connors is only losing 2.6 strokes putting, he better be playing pretty well with the other clubs. And then Adam Scott, what a surprise. He missed by 2 and lost 2.4 strokes putting on the 2 days. So that is the missed cut segment. And now we'll move on to the stat review. So why I'm bringing these up. First, in the missed cut segment, it's really to show you guys that may be really close. For example, like, I'm not taking too much stock now in the Justin Rose miss after, losing 6 strokes putting. Obviously the ball striking means that was there a little bit. Tony Finau, same thing. Brendan Steele, also same thing. They just had a really bad putting week. Not going to put too much stock in it. So it's good to see these things. It's good to analyze them for that specific purpose because not everybody will, especially not every gamer will want to do that, and we'll just see the miscut and move on. So good to dig in. Speaking of digging in, let's dig into some stat review from the last week. This is where I measure up the new age statistics, strokes gained, with the old age statistics like greens and regulation and such. So we start off the tee, and Bryson DeChambeau, I can't chronicle again any better. I don't know if anybody can. I'm sure most people have been talking about it, but his pursuit off the tee is just unbelievable. He led the field again this week. Keith Mitchell, Scotty Scheffler, Jason Kokrak, Victor Hovland, Colleen Morikawa is your top 6 this week in off the tee. You find 2 of them in driving accuracy, but all the way down at the bottom. So just at the back end of the top 10 in Scotty Scheffler and Colin Morikawa, while the other ones you can find in driving distance in Bryson DeChambeau. Let's see, I think Actually, that might be it. No, Keith Mitchell. Sorry, Keith Mitchell is also up there in driving distance. So, interesting. Not that much crossover between them this week. Way down there on the list. So, normally we see a little bit better crossover, but not there this week. Still, so in driving distance, we'll go back to that. Not driving accuracy, which might be important this week. Troy Merritt, Ryan Moore, Sungjae Im, Joel Damon, Matt Fitzpatrick, all playing this week. All seem to be hitting a lot of fairways, so definitely something to keep an eye on for. All right, moving on to the strokes gained on the approach. No surprise to see who's in first place here either. Colin Morikawa led the field yet again. Ty Hatton was number 2. Joel Damon number 3. Jimmy Walker yet again popping up in that category, number 4. Max Homa, number 5. In fact, Jimmy Walker, I believe, was instrumental in one of my wins at the Players' Championship a couple of years ago. So, okay, anyway, sorry. Max Homa on the strokes gained on the approach. Rory McIlroy had a good week as well with the irons. Danny Willett, Byung-Hyun An, and Tom Hoge. No surprise to see a lot of crossover here. Sam Burns led the field in greens in regulation, but then Ben An, Rory, Tom Hoge, so that's not a crossover. Matt Fitzpatrick also had a good hitting greens, as did Sung Kang, Charlie Hoffman, Ty Hatton, and Sung Jae Im. So a lot of crossover, about maybe 50% crossover from strokes gained on the approach to greens in regulation, whereas in the putts per GIR, it was almost identical yet again, but we'll just tell you the strokes gained on the putting side. Scott Harrington, Bo Hostler, Keith Mitchell. Well, no wonder why he played so well. Mark Leishman, Xander Schauffele, and Taylor Gooch. So, guys that got hot with the putter down at Bay Hill this week. As that wraps up. Actually, nope, sorry. Just saw my notes. I apologize. I was jumping the gun. I always like to look at the birdies. I just think we can find some outliers here. And I always like to take a look at that in terms of, again, DraftKings point scoring. That's all it matters. Of course, positional points is important. Certainly, in a week where 17 birdies led the field by Keith Mitchell and Sung Kang, that means positional points are a little bit more important. I don't expect that to be the same this week, although it could be if the winds come back up. But regardless, I mentioned Mitchell and Kang at 17, Ty Hatton, Sam Burns at 16, Sung Jae Im and Danny Willett at 15, while Bryson DeChambeau, Danny Lee, Harris English, Taylor Gooch, Christian Benzenhout, 14, and Graham McDowell also had 14. So I listened to Christian Benzenhout say his name, and the H-O-U-T is actually pronounced H-A-U-T, like Hout. So I'm going to butcher it every time, but I'm trying. I just want to let you guys know. All right, so that will now wrap up our Arnold Palmer Invitational recap, where now I'm going to go into the new week, the Players' Championship, where I start off with the DFS preview, and of course, I am super excited about the Millionaire Maker. Of course, I'm a GPP player, so you throw out the highest prize that you could possibly put out for golf, which is the $1 million, and I'm generally going to get excited about it. Of course, the top-heavy nature of it is what it is. I would rather play for $1 million against 130,000 people, and then have maybe a large scale drop off, than play for maybe the same amount of people for 250,000 with a flatter payout. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's an against the grain take there. I just like playing for the big prize. I feel like if you're gonna win. If you're going to win the contest, you're going to win it. If you come in second, so what? That's a bad beat. If you're going to win one of these 100,000 plus person contests, I'd rather the first place prize be there than anything else. Again, if I come in second and because of that, because of their payout structure, I lose out on possible $100,000 in winnings, so be it. I'll still be happy with my second place finish. Okay, so moving on, which of course, if you want to find more information about the Millionaire Maker, I've chronicalized. Is that a word? Well, in any case, if it's not a word or not, I have gotten together the last 7 contests, and I put that out in my first cut article that is already live. So go to awesemo.com/PGA and find the first cut. It should be the second article down if it's not the first one. And I put in the entire lineup from the all last 7 and my findings, some basic information like points, ownership, salary, all that above, all on there. Some really good, useful information. Crazy enough, just a quick little tidbit. Like I said, you can find more information in the first cut. Brooks Koepka has been in 6 straight Millionaire Maker lineups, while Tony Finau has been in 5 of the last 7. Just a crazy little statistic there. And for more from that, head on to the article. All right, so let's continue on. It is Tpc Sawgrass. It is one of the best golf courses all year. So not only do we get a Millionaire Maker, but we've got one of the best golf courses. It's a lot of fun. It's a par 72 that only measures 7,200 yards. So one would think that the PGA Tour players would really tear it up, right? But they don't, in fact, tear it up. We have normal winning scores or typical winning scores anywhere in the mid-teens. We've had Rory McIlroy, of course, last year. Win it at -16. The year before that, Webb Simpson put out the greatest short game performance in recent history, going -18. Siwoo Kim, the last year that it was very windy and tough conditions, -10. Jason Day in 2016, -15. And then Keimer in 2015 shot 13 under. So mid-teen scoring for a golf course that normally at the yardage and par that it is would certainly expect to have a lower score. And the reason that is because the golf course is super tricky. While there are no par 4s over 470 yards, it's all tricky. And I've walked the golf course many times. And yes, I've even played it on PlayStation and computer since, before I can remember. I was playing PGA Tour Tiger Woods in 2000, so it likely was on that game. The front side is really, the first few holes are gettable. Even the first hole is really not that difficult. The second hole is a short par 5, followed by a relatively short par 3. And then again, even 4 and 5 have become more scoreable. Now, last year, I shouldn't say that. Last year, since they had that big course renovation, that hole, those 2 holes have gotten a little tougher, but still, the 4th hole that has that water hazard that comes over across the green, it is a great risk-reward hole, which is very significant, of course, for Pete Dye courses, which, of course, this is. If you're familiar with course architecture, Pete Dye does this course, does RBC Heritage, where we're going to be in a few weeks, and he is just, at times, diabolical with his architecture. In any case, so wanted to talk about the course. We'll go back to that. As we go onto the front side, as I mentioned, the first 2 holes play under par, but then the next 6 holes play over par. Even that par 4 fourth that has that water hazard there, it comes in more often than you think, plus the landing area for your drive, where you're landing at about 260, is very tight. And then it gets really tough after that. The 5th hole was one of the hardest holes on the entire PGA Tour last year, followed by the 6th, which is another tough one. And then 8, one of the toughest par 3s on the PGA Tour last year, playing almost a quarter of a shot over par. Followed by 4 scoring holes. These are the most important holes on the golf course until, of course, you get to 16 and 17. The stretch between 9 and 12, 13, call it. So 9 is the par 5, 10 is a short par 4, 11 is a short par 5, and 12 is the drivable par 4. So you've got 4 scoring holes in a row. If you're going to start off your round, or if you're going to get your round going, you need to play 2 or 3 under on these holes, and a lot of ground can be made up. All of them are relatively short. And then, of course, once you get after 12, you've got a stretch of 3 holes where now you just need to hang on. You've got that 190-yard par 3 with water out there on 13. 14 is the longest par 4 on the course, followed by 15, the second longest par 4 on the course. So you just got to hang on to those holes. And then you get to 16, which again is a definite scoring hole, a short par 5, long as you can find somewhat in play off the tee and avoid the water on the right, which of course guards that 17th hole. The next hole, the Island Green, and then 18th, one of the toughest finishing holes on the PGA Tour as well, depending on the wind and what tee they're using. Just a great overall course, as I mentioned before. If you're a golf fan and you have not gone, try to put it on your menu of tournaments to visit. It is one of the best spectacles, at least in my opinion. So that maybe brings you a little bit more about the course than I normally do. It's just I know so much about this one. And next week as well, of course, at Copperhead. I've played the course 3 or 4 times now. Never played Tpc Sawgrass. Have walked it 3 times now. So this is probably my second most visited event. So know the course, as I said, pretty well. All right, let's move on to the field. And then we're going to get into some actual prices. I'm going to give you the opening preview talk for the salaries that were already released. And then we're going to go into some stats. And because the salaries are already released, we're going to be mixing up the content. So no stats with Matt, at least tomorrow night, maybe on Tuesday. We'll have more information on that coming up. But let's go into the field. So first you start off with Tournament Winners. The field of the players is a little different than most normal events. Tournament Winners is the start, then the top 125 from the FedEx Cup last year. Then the top 125 medical, which is only two guys, Danny Berger and Brunson Burgoon. Then the top 50 in the world that haven't already qualified via the above qualifications. And then the top 10 in the current year FedEx, which a couple of guys get in that way, Tom Hoge and a few others. So interesting qualifications this week. It is the strongest field we have all year. Everybody in the top 10 in the world, except for Tiger, is here. Almost everybody in the top 25 and 30 and 40 and 50, for that matter, is here as well. It is by far the deepest and strongest field we have. So let's then transition into, now that we've brought in how strong the field is, let's bring in and talk about some prices. So if you're interested in more than just the Millionaire Maker, of course, DraftKings also introduced a new style of game this week called tiers. If you're familiar with it from other sports like NFL or what have you, it is the exact same way. DraftKings is giving you 6 tiers to choose from. For example, in this first tier, you only have a choice of Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, or Justin Thomas. In tier 2, you've got 5 golfers to choose from with Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Dustin Johnson, Xander Schauffele, and Brooks Koepka. Tier 3, they add in another guy, 6. In tier 4, you've got 8, tier 5, 9, and tier 6, 9 as well. So just a fun and new different format for everybody to choose from and play. They are offering for their first week doing this. Let's see, I don't want to give you wrong information. I believe it's $5 buy-in, a $10K to first to start it off. So pretty good, not bad, as they try out this tiers special, adding a new game format to DraftKings. Some people that just want to pick the players, don't want to have to deal with salary. It's definitely likable and obtainable, and I can see it definitely catching on. Okay, so let's go into our normal DraftKings salary contest. And we start off with Rory McIlroy again being separated from the field. Last week we saw him at 11-8 and Tommy Fleetwood come down at 11. This week it's Jon Rahm coming in at 11 and Rory McIlroy coming in at 11-7. So condensing most of the field and just putting Rory just so far out there on an iceberg, it's very interesting. Justin Thomas coming in at 10-4. They released the salaries like maybe an hour or two after Tiger was not in the field, so he was at 10-4, but obviously not playing. Brooks Koepka goes from being 9,200 at the Arnold Palmer Invitational and like 6th or 7th on the board to fourth highest priced golfer in this field at 10,200. Explain that one to me. Dustin Johnson, 10,000. Patrick Cantlay, 9.8. Adam Scott, 9.6. Xander Schauffele, 9.4. Webb Simpson, 9.2. And Bryson DeChambeau, 9.1 to end out the top, or I'll call it first page of the leaderboard of list of things that I'm looking at. As we make our way down the list, I think a lot of interest certainly will be put upon Tommy Fleetwood at 9,000. Even coming off that miscut at the Arnold Palmer, he had the worst of the conditions. I expect a lot of people to love that salary for him. Also had a great year here last year, having a chance to win. Hideki Matsuyama at 8,800 as well. I'm sure has had a decent season, will get a ton of interest. As well as Sung J M, who has had an amazing Florida swing, coming in at 8,600. For the first time in a while, Tony Finau now has dropped down to low 8,000s at 8,100. Where Jordan Spieth, yes, I know I'm bringing it up again, but Jordan Spieth, 7,700, the first time we've seen him below 8,000 in a very, very long time. Something just interesting to take note of there. As we march down the list, Ty Hatton, last week's winner at the Arnold Palmer, he comes in at 7,400, while Mark Leishman, who came in second, comes in at 7,600. So some great recent form coming from that middle price section. Just guys that we're not used to seeing down this cheap. Other guys that we're just really not used to seeing this cheap, Daniel Berger and Abraham Answer, perennial 8K guys this year, they are at 7.2K. And as we move down the list into the value sections, we find guys like Brandon Grace, who has had a little bit of a resurgence down there at 6,700, as well as Cam Tringale, who's made 11 of 12 cuts early on in the season at 6,600, as well as Max Homa, who's made 10 of 11, and Joel Damon, who's made 11 of 13, all at 6,600. Of course, the Players' Championship is certainly a different animal. And again, why we see some of these prices as cheaply as we do. So for more information about these opening prices, the odds that will be that are already out, and some general strategy, including some lineup review, winning reviews of last week's contest, check out the First Look, our new YouTube live show, right around 3 o'clock on Monday afternoons. That's with Ben Raza, Jeff Ulrich, and our buddy Sal Vitri. So be sure to check that out. And of course, we're right at about 26 minutes here, maybe 27, so a little bit longer for me. You'll likely be hearing me again with another pod coming up this week. We're changing our content around just a little bit and on the audio-video side, so I'll give you more information on that after tomorrow. And if you're looking for more information now, like I said, the first cut is already available with a Millionaire Maker preview. And of course, we'll have a full slate of content coming out this week for the Players' Championship, our first ever Millionaire Maker for it. And of course, thanks to SuperDraft for sponsoring all of our audiovisual content for the month of March. Go on and check them out if you already have it. I'm sure their contest will be up in prize this week as well. Of course, they have no salary cap either, so you don't even have to worry about, can I play Rory and Rahm together? You certainly can over at SuperDraft, so check them out. So until then, until next time, everybody, thank you so much for coming on and listening to another one of my Opening Tee podcast. And good luck, and I hope we get a Millionaire Maker winner out of this week. So cheers. Well, actually, we probably will have a Millionaire Maker winner. I hope we get it from the Osmo Plus side, though, from all of our friends over here. So, again, please remember, if you don't already, to give us a thumbs up and a like. Make sure you put a rating in there as well. I want to see what you don't like and do like in the contest. And, of course, the best way to help promote our content here is to like it and subscribe and, of course, rate us. So thanks for doing that very much appreciated on this side. So I'll be signing off now, and we'll see you again on, if nothing else, on Wednesday night for the Live Before Lock show. Cheers, everybody.